On December 20th, 2023, a man named Alan Yates cured the last tire. He had worked at the Melksham factory in Wiltshire, England for nearly 40 years. His brother had worked there before him. 3 generations of one family in one building making one product. That building had been producing tires since 1904. It was the last motorcycle tire factory in the United Kingdom. The tire Alan Yates cured that final day was for a vintage motorcycle. Then the machine stopped. 350 workers collected their things, and one of the most storied tire brands in the history of motorcycling, Avon Tires, ceased production on British soil forever. The factory was not closed because Avon made bad tires. Avon held a strong reputation among British and American riders for over a century. The factory was closed because Goodyear, the American conglomerate that had absorbed Avon's previous owner, Cooper Tires, in a $2.8 billion deal in 2021, determined that the 112-year-old Melksham site was no longer competitive. The math did not work for a company that size, so they shut it down. And then they moved Avon production to a Dunlop factory in France. The brand that British riders had trusted for over a century is now made in a factory belonging to a different brand, operated by the same conglomerate that killed the original factory. What you are looking at when you stand in front of that tire rack at your dealer is not a competitive market. It is a corporate portfolio. 3 companies sit behind nearly every tire brand that matters to you as a motorcycle rider. And by the time this video is over, you will know exactly who they are, what they own, which brands are still genuinely independent, and, most importantly, how to read, choose, maintain, and service the rubber on your motorcycle without paying for information or services that should never have cost you anything. Part 1. Who actually owns your tires? The first company, Bridgestone. Let's start with a company most riders never think about, because their name is almost never on a tire you consciously chose. Bridgestone was founded in Japan in 1931 by Shojiro Ishibashi. The name is a direct translation of his surname. Ishibashi means stone bridge, and he reversed those words to create the brand. From that origin, Bridgestone grew to become the largest tire company in the world by revenue. In 2023, Bridgestone generated approximately $25.5 billion. It also owns Firestone, one of the most recognized tire names in American automotive history. Here is what matters for motorcycle riders specifically. Bridgestone is the original equipment tire on an enormous portion of new motorcycles sold in the United States. When you buy a new Honda, a new Kawasaki, a new Yamaha, or a new Suzuki, there is a very good chance the tires already mounted on that motorcycle came from the Bridgestone Batlax line. And here is the detail dealers almost never tell you. Original equipment tires, the tires fitted at the factory to a new motorcycle, are often manufactured to a different performance specification than the aftermarket versions of the same brand sold with the same name. The original equipment version is specified for longevity and a comfortable ride out of the box. The aftermarket version of the same tire with the same name on the sidewall may use a different compound optimized for grip and performance. You are buying what looks like the same tire. It is not always the same tire. Bridgestone's position is built not on the tires you choose, but on the tires that come with the motorcycle before you ever walk into a tire shop. When you decide to replace your stock tires for the first time, and you already trust the Bridgestone name because it was on your bike from day one, the brand has already done its most important work. The second company, Pirelli and what it owns. The second company controls a brand you almost certainly know, and a brand you probably thought was completely separate from it. Pirelli was founded in Milan, Italy in 1872. For most of its history, it was an Italian company making Italian tires, and that identity mattered to riders. The Pirelli name carried the weight of Formula One, of MotoGP, of European road racing. The Diablo and the Angel lines became reference points for sport and touring riders who wanted European engineering and Italian heritage in their rubber. In 1986, Pirelli acquired Metzeler, the German tire manufacturer that had been producing motorcycle tires since 1892. From that point forward, every rider who thought they were choosing between Italian Pirelli and German Metzeler was actually choosing between 2 product lines managed by the same company. The factories share infrastructure. The US customer support lines for Pirelli and Metzeler motorcycle tires have shared the same phone number. Riders who examined both brands carefully noticed that certain tread patterns bore striking resemblance across the two labels. There is a reason for that. Then came 2015. In March of that year, Pirelli's shareholders accepted a bid for 7.1 billion euros from ChemChina, China National Chemical Corporation, a Chinese state-owned enterprise. The deal gave ChemChina a controlling stake in Pirelli, meaning a company owned by the Chinese government became the decision-making authority over one of the most respected tire brands in motorcycle racing history, along with Metzeler. ChemChina later merged with Sinochem, another Chinese state-owned company. The Italian government became alarmed enough that Prime Minister Meloni's administration invoked what Italy calls its golden power rules, emergency provisions allowing the government to intervene in corporate ownership of strategically important assets. They applied those powers directly to Pirelli to limit how much control the Chinese state entity could exercise over the company's governance and technology. In April 2025, Pirelli's board formally determined that Sinochem no longer exercised outright control. Chinese state interests still hold a significant ownership stake. The situation remains under active monitoring by the Italian government. When you pick up a Pirelli and a Metzeler, you are looking at two brands that have been under the same roof since 1986, both of which spent nearly a decade under the control of a Chinese state enterprise, and both of which manufacture some of their tires in a facility in Yanzhou in China's Shandong province. The Italian heritage on the Pirelli label and the German engineering reputation on the Metzeler label are both real in their historical roots. The current ownership structure is something else entirely, and Pirelli just secured the contract to be the exclusive tire supplier for MotoGP from 2027 forward. The world's premier motorcycle racing series will run exclusively on tires whose ownership history includes Chinese state control and active Italian government intervention to limit that control. The third company, Sumitomo and the Avon story. The third company owns a brand many of you grew up with, a brand many of your bikes came fitted with from the factory, and a brand whose history is so tangled with acquisition and counter-acquisition that even industry insiders get confused. Sumitomo Rubber Industries is a Japanese company. Since January 2025, it has owned Dunlop globally and completely. Dunlop is one of the oldest and most recognized tire names in motorcycling, fitted to bikes from Harley-Davidson to Yamaha to BMW. Sumitomo owning it outright ends a decades-long ownership dispute that split the Dunlop brand between multiple companies in different regions. But the Avon story shows what Sumitomo ownership of Dunlop actually means in practice. Avon Tires was founded in 1904 in England. Cooper Tires acquired it in 1997. Goodyear then acquired Cooper in 2021. When Goodyear shut the Melksham factory in December 2023, they moved Avon motorcycle production to Dunlop's factory in Montluçon, France. Sumitomo completed its purchase of Dunlop's global rights from Goodyear in January 2025. Follow that chain. Avon, a 120-year-old British brand, is now produced in a French factory that belongs to a brand owned by a Japanese conglomerate, because the American company that closed its original factory sold the brand's sister operation to that Japanese conglomerate as part of the same transaction chain. The brand name on the tire and the actual corporate reality behind it have almost nothing left in common. What independence looks like. Three brands have maintained genuine independence from the consolidation machine. Shinko. The brand evolved from motorcycle tire technology acquired from Yokohama Rubber Company in 1998. Manufacturing is in South Korea. They produce over 200,000 motorcycle tires per month, consistently priced well below the premium brands, not the performance leader, but genuinely independent from all three conglomerate structures. One correction here. Some sources describe Shinko as an American company because it is distributed in the US by Western Power Sports, an American distributor. The correct description is a South Korean manufacturer with American distribution. The distinction matters when you are evaluating what independence means. Michelin, the world's largest tire company by revenue, ahead of Bridgestone, a French company, publicly traded, and never acquired or absorbed into a larger conglomerate. Michelin's Pilot Road and Pilot Power series compete directly at the premium level. When you buy a Michelin, the money goes to a French public company that owns its own engineering, its own manufacturing, and its own brand with no parent corporate structure above it. Continental. A German company, publicly traded on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange and independently controlled. Not owned by Bridgestone, not connected to Pirelli, not part of the Sumitomo structure. Its Conti Road Attack and Conti Motion lines have strong reputations in the sport touring segment. Part 2. How to read a motorcycle tire. Now that you know who actually makes what, you need to know how to read what you are buying. This is the information that turns a confusing shelf into a decision you can make with confidence. The size. Every motorcycle tire carries a size stamped on the sidewall. The format looks like this: 120/70 ZR17. The first number, 120 in this example, is the width of the tire in millimeters. That is the measurement across the widest point of the tread. The second number, 70, is the aspect ratio. This is not an actual measurement. It is a percentage of the width. So a 120/70 tire has a sidewall height that is 70% of 120 millimeters, which is 84 millimeters from the rim to the edge of the tread. The lower this number, the flatter the profile. Sport bikes tend toward lower aspect ratios. Touring and cruiser bikes run higher. The letter R indicates radial construction. This is the dominant construction type in modern motorcycle tires. Radial means the cords inside the tire run radially from bead to bead rather than at an angle. For practical purposes, if you see R in the size designation, you are looking at a radial tire. The final number, 17, is the rim diameter in inches. Your wheel determines this. Do not buy a tire with a different rim diameter than your wheel. The load and speed rating. Next to the size, you will find a number-letter combination, something like 58W or 73H. The number is the load index. It represents the maximum weight the tire is rated to carry at its maximum inflation. Your motorcycle's manual specifies the minimum load rating required. Do not go below this. A tire with an insufficient load rating is not a bargain. It is a structural liability at the weight it will be asked to carry. The letter is the speed rating. It represents the maximum sustained speed the tire is certified for. Common ratings on motorcycle tires are H, 210 km per hour, V, 240 km per hour, W, 270 km per hour, and Y, 300 km per hour. Match or exceed the speed rating specified for your machine. Do not install a lower speed rating than your machine's OEM specification. The letter Z, which you will sometimes see in the size itself as ZR17, indicates the tire is rated for speeds above 240 km per hour. This is a high-performance designation found on sport and supersport machines. Do not put Z-rated tires on a machine that does not require them. They are designed for a specific operating range and perform poorly outside it. The treadwear rating, a 3-digit number found elsewhere on the sidewall. Around 300 is typical for a balanced all-season road tire. Higher numbers indicate harder compounds that last longer, but may sacrifice grip in wet conditions. Lower numbers, common on track-oriented sport tires, indicate softer compounds with more grip but shorter life. A budget tire hiding a treadwear rating below 200 is a tire that will need replacing in 6,000 to 8,000 miles, regardless of how low the price was. Factor the treadwear rating into your total cost of ownership, not just the sticker price. The DOT date code. The most important number on the sidewall that most riders never check. Find the DOT stamp. At the end of the DOT number, you will see 4 digits. The first 2 are the week of manufacture. The last 2 are the year. A tire stamped 1523 was made in the 15th week of 2023. Never buy a motorcycle tire older than 1 year from its manufacture date. Tires age on the shelf regardless of whether they have been mounted and ridden. The rubber compounds that provide grip, especially in wet conditions, degrade through oxidation during storage. A tire that looks perfect and has never been ridden may be substantially compromised internally if it's spent 2 years in a warehouse. Discount tire sales, closeout pricing, and tires from sellers that are not primary tire retailers are the most common sources of old stock. The low price is often explained by the date code. Check it before every purchase. Part 3. How to choose the right tire. The most common mistake riders make when choosing tires is treating the selection as a research project. From scratch every time. It does not need to be. Start with what you already have. If your current tires lasted well and the bike handled the way you want it to handle through their life, if you had no significant concerns in the final miles before replacement, then the most important question is why you are changing brands. You may be able to get worse, you will not know until they are on the bike. Tires have a larger impact on how a motorcycle handles than almost any other single component. Changing the brand changes the compound, the profile, the stiffness, the feedback, the wet weather behavior. This is not a small variable. Riders who switch brands and find the new tires worse have often ignored a simple question. Were the old tires good? If the answer is yes, start your search with the same make and model. Upgrade within the line if a newer version exists. The engineering that validated your previous set is the foundation you should build on. When you are unhappy with your current tires, look at the original equipment manufacturer specification first. The manufacturer who designed and tested your machine chose a specific tire, not because it was cheap, but because it passed their engineering criteria for how the machine was meant to behave. The original equipment manufacturer tire is a documented engineering starting point. From there, read reviews, but read them from riders on the same machine, not just riders on the same tire size. A 120/70-17 that works exceptionally well on a Kawasaki Ninja may perform differently on a BMW R9T because the chassis geometry, suspension setup, and weight distribution interact with the tire compound and profile differently. Tire rack and manufacturer-specific forums organized by machine model give you relevant data. General tire reviews do not. The performance trade-off. There is no perfect motorcycle tire. There is the best compromise for your specific riding. Harder compounds last longer and tend to perform better in warm conditions. They provide less grip at low temperatures and shorter warm-up periods. They are quieter on smooth pavement and less forgiving on irregular surfaces. Softer compounds provide more grip across a wider temperature range and more immediate feedback. They wear faster. They are the correct choice for riders who prioritize handling over longevity. They are a poor choice for the rider who does most of their miles at highway speeds over long distances. The sport touring category exists for the rider in the middle. These are machines that need to perform both on canyon roads and on sustained motorway miles. The Michelin Road 6, the Dunlop Mutant, the Metzeler Road Tech 01, and the Pirelli Angel GT2 all compete in this space. Each makes specific trade-offs between longevity, wet weather performance, and handling at the limit. None of them is wrong. They are different answers to the same question: summer, winter, and all season. Most motorcycle riders in temperate climates run all-season tires year-round. This is the correct decision for the majority. The critical variable is not tread pattern, it is compound behavior at low temperatures. Below approximately 7 degrees Celsius, standard summer tire compounds harden significantly, reducing grip in ways that standard tread patterns cannot compensate for. A summer tire in freezing conditions is not just less grippy, it handles like a machine with hard plastic contact patches rather than rubber ones. Winter motorcycle tires are designed to remain pliable below freezing. They sacrifice handling character at higher temperatures to maintain grip in conditions where standard tires fail. For riders in climates with genuine winter riding seasons, a winter tire set is not optional equipment. It is a safety requirement. All-season tires occupy the middle ground. They do not perform at the absolute limit of summer tires in warm conditions and do not match dedicated winter tires in extreme cold. For the rider who faces variable conditions across a riding season, they are the rational choice. Part 4. Tire problems. What to check and why. Tire age and dry rot. Beyond the date code, there is a physical symptom of tire aging that every rider should know to look for. Dry rot. As rubber ages, it loses its oil content through a process called outgassing. The rubber dries and contracts. Small cracks appear across the surface, particularly on the sidewalls where the tire flexes during use. Early dry rot looks like fine crazing. Advanced dry rot produces visible cracks that extend into the tire structure. A tire with advanced dry rot has compromised structural integrity. The specific danger is not a slow leak. It is a sudden failure. A motorcycle tire experiencing catastrophic sidewall failure at highway speed is a survival event. Do not ride on tires showing visible cracking, regardless of the remaining tread depth. The general guideline: plan for replacement at 5 years. By 7 years, tires must be replaced regardless of appearance. This applies to tires that have been stored, as well as tires that have been ridden. The oxidation process occurs regardless of use. One additional note: some tire dressings and shine products contain petroleum distillates that accelerate rubber degradation when applied excessively. A clean tire is the correct standard. A tire coated in shine product is a tire whose aging is being obscured and potentially accelerated. Wheel balance. Two types. When riders describe a vibration at highway speeds, typically appearing at a specific speed and sometimes disappearing above it, they are usually describing a wheel balance issue. But there are two distinct types of balance problem, and most tire shops only check one. Standard wheel balance checks for lateral imbalance, the tire and wheel assembly having more weight on one side than the other. This produces a wobble, the classic shimmy in the bars, or a rhythmic vibration through the pegs. Standard balance machines catch this and add weights to counteract it. Road force balance checks for radial runout, the tire having a heavier stiff spot that causes it to bounce vertically rather than roll smoothly. This produces a different vibration, a bobbing or hopping sensation rather than a shimmy. Standard balance machines do not check this. Road force balance machines apply a load to the tire while spinning it and measure the deviation. If your motorcycle has a vibration that standard balancing does not resolve, request a road force balance specifically. The machine that performs it properly will also identify phase matching opportunities, positioning the tire's heavy spot opposite the wheel's high spot to cancel both deviations simultaneously. A motorcycle tire that cannot be balanced through road force procedures may be defective. This is a documented occurrence and is covered under tire manufacturer warranty. A good shop will document the road force values and support a warranty claim if the numbers show the tire is outside specification. Tire conicity. The least discussed tire problem, and one of the most commonly misdiagnosed causes of a motorcycle pulling to one side. Conicity is a condition where the tire does not sit perfectly flat when mounted. Instead of a symmetric circular profile, it takes on a slight conical shape, meaning one side of the contact patch has a slightly larger diameter than the other. The physics of this produce a consistent directional pull rather than a vibration. The misdiagnosis path is predictable. Rider notices a pull. Dealer recommends alignment. Alignment is performed. Pull is unchanged. Rider spends money on something that could not have fixed the problem, the diagnostic test. If the pull reverses direction when you rotate the tire on the rim, mounting the tire in the opposite orientation, the tire has conicity. If the pull follows the tire to a different wheel position, the tire has conicity. An alignment will not fix a tire problem. Conicity can be a manufacturing defect. It can also result from improper storage, specifically from tires stored stacked flat on top of each other rather than stored vertically on their tread. When you are purchasing tires, look at how the shop stores them. Tires stacked horizontally for extended periods develop deformation under the weight. That deformation may not be visible, it will be felt. Cupping. A noise problem that sounds remarkably like a failing wheel bearing and is regularly misdiagnosed as one. Cupping, also called scalloping, is uneven wear across the tread surface. Run your bare hand slowly along the outer edge of the tire in both directions. A properly worn tire feels smooth in both directions. A cupped tire has a rippled or jagged feel where sections of tread have worn away unevenly, leaving alternating high and low spots. This surface produces a thumping, droning noise at speed that resembles bearing failure in character and changes in pitch as speed changes. The causes: irregular rotation schedules that allow the rear tire to develop bounce-induced wear patterns at high mileage. Worn suspension, particularly worn rear shock absorbers, that allows the tire to hop rather than maintain consistent contact. Some low-quality tires develop cupping from compound inconsistency in the manufacturing process. The repair: a cupped tire cannot be corrected. It must be replaced. The prevention is regular rotation on appropriate machines and monitoring shock absorber condition. The nail repair rule: a nail in the tread of a motorcycle tire can be repaired, but only under specific conditions that most roadside repair kits and many tire shops do not correctly enforce. The nail must be in the center tread area, not in the final 2 to 3 inches of tread approaching the sidewall, and not in the sidewall itself. These areas are structural zones. A plug or patch in these areas compromises the tire's structural integrity rather than restoring it. The nail must enter straight through the tread. A nail that enters at an angle and exits at a different point on the tire's inner surface has compromised a larger section of cords than a straight penetration. Diagonal penetration should prompt tire replacement rather than repair. A professional repair means a plug and patch combination from the inside of the tire. Not a plug from the outside only. This is a temporary emergency measure not a completed repair, not a patch from the inside only. This is also incomplete. The combination performed by a shop that removes the tire from the rim to inspect the inner surface is the correct standard. A patched tire at the correct location with a correct repair can return to service. A patched tire anywhere near the sidewall should be replaced regardless of how good the plug looks. The tires on your new motorcycle and the decisions you make at every replacement interval are the single factor most riders underestimate in total ownership cost. Section 2 of the 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible documents the original equipment manufacturer tire compound divergence in detail. The specific brands and model lines where the tire fitted at the factory uses a fleet compound that wears 30 to 50% faster than the replacement market versions sold under the same name. That information changes the calculation on your first tire replacement. Section 7 has the complete pre-purchase inspection checklist, including tire condition, date code verification, and the 4 visual checks that tell you whether a used machine's tires are actually within safe service life or merely appear to be. Link in the description. Was $97. Now $9. Part 5. Tire service, what you should and should not pay for. Tire balance if it is not broken. Tire shops will sometimes recommend wheel balance as scheduled preventive maintenance. There is no engineering basis for this recommendation on a motorcycle that has no vibration complaint. Wheel balance does not degrade over time on a properly operating machine. Balance weights do not fall off without visible evidence. If your motorcycle has no vibration at any speed, the balance is adequate. Paying for a balance because some interval has passed is paying for a service your machine does not need. The correct trigger for wheel balance is a new tire installation and a new vibration complaint. If your tires have not been changed and you have no vibration, your balance does not need attention. The pull diagnosis. A motorcycle that pulls consistently to one side when you briefly release the bars has a cause. The diagnostic sequence before any expensive intervention. First, have you recently changed tires? If yes, swap the front tire's orientation on the rim. If the pull reverses or disappears, the tire has conicity. This costs nothing. If the pull predates any tire change, the cause could be tire conicity on an aged tire, wheel alignment, worn suspension components, or tire pressure differential. Check the obvious things in sequence before authorizing expensive work. Do not allow a shop to perform alignment work to correct a pull without first ruling out tire conicity. An alignment on a machine with a conicity problem produces a corrected alignment and an unchanged pull. You will have paid for nothing. Tire rotation. Motorcycle tire rotation is not the same practice as automotive tire rotation. Motorcycles with different tire sizes, front and rear, which is most motorcycles, cannot simply swap front and rear tires. The sizes are incompatible. What matters on a motorcycle is consistent attention to the tire most likely to wear unevenly. On chain-driven machines, the rear tire typically carries more load and wears faster. Monitoring rear tire wear and replacing before the wear indicators reach the minimum depth is the primary rotation discipline. Long-term storage. If your motorcycle will sit for more than 3 months without being ridden, inflate the tires to the upper end of the recommended pressure range, typically 5 to 10 pounds per square inch above normal. Tires develop flat spots when bearing the weight of a stationary machine for extended periods. The elevated pressure reduces the contact patch area and minimizes flat spot formation. When you return the machine to service, deflate to the normal specification before riding. A tire inflated to storage pressure is not safe for road use. Flat spots from short storage, a few weeks to a couple of months, typically work out within the first few miles of riding. Flat spots from extended storage at proper inflation should also resolve. Flat spots from extended storage at low inflation may be permanent and require replacement. Where to buy? Shop for the tire first, then for the price. The correct sequence. Identify the specific tire that serves your riding through research and recommendation from riders on your specific machine. Then price that exact tire across multiple channels. Tire-specific retailers, general retailers with tire departments, online with local mounting. The tire itself is the same product regardless of source, assuming the date code is acceptable. Dealerships are rarely the best price source, they are the convenience source. The warranty and service convenience argument applies only if you travel significantly and may need warranty service in distant markets, a relevant consideration for touring riders, less relevant for local commuters. Do not let the price determine the tire. let the tire determine the price you will find. Part 6. The three independents. What their independence actually means. Now that you know who owns what and how to evaluate what you are buying, the question is what the ownership structure actually means for the tire on your machine. The rider with 265,000 miles on his GPZ 1100, who has run Avon, Michelin, Dunlop, and Shinko across those miles, identified the practical conclusion most accurately. What he cares about is reasonable performance in wet and dry conditions coupled with longevity. The corporate structure of who owns what is secondary to whether the tire does what he needs it to do. That is a reasonable position. But the corporate structure matters in two specific ways that the experienced rider's preference cannot fully account for.